Have you ever stopped to think about these names? Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi, Susanoo, Izanagi, Izanami. If you're a Naruto fan, you've heard them countless times. They sound powerful, mysterious, perfect names for legendary jutsu. But here's something many Naruto fans outside Japan never realize. None of these names were created for Naruto. Every one of them has existed for more than 1,300 years. Before manga, before anime, before Japan even became the country we know today. They're the names of real gods from Japanese mythology. And Masashi Kishimoto didn't choose them because they sounded cool. He chose them because each name already carried a story, a meaning, and a history that every Japanese reader immediately recognizes. When I first watched Naruto, I wasn't surprised by the names. I was surprised that Kishimoto chose those names. Because once you know the original myths, you begin to notice something remarkable. Naruto isn't just inspired by Japanese culture. It's built on it. Today, we're going back to the original stories behind Naruto's most famous techniques. Some of them stayed surprisingly close to the myths. Others were completely transformed. Either way, once you know where these names came from, you'll never hear them the same way again. Let's start with the most famous one of all. Amaterasu. Have you ever stopped to think about these names? Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi, Susanoo, Izanagi, Izanami. If you're a Naruto fan, you've heard them countless times. They sound powerful, mysterious, perfect names for legendary jutsu. But here's something many Naruto fans outside Japan never realize. None of these names were created for Naruto. Every one of them has existed for more than 1,300 years. Before manga, before anime, before Japan even became the country we know today. They're the names of real gods from Japanese mythology. And Masashi Kishimoto didn't choose them because they sounded cool. He chose them because each name already carried a story, a meaning, and a history that every Japanese reader immediately recognizes. When I first watched Naruto, I wasn't surprised by the names. I was surprised that Kishimoto chose those names. Because once you know the original myths, you begin to notice something remarkable. Naruto isn't just inspired by Japanese culture, it's built on it. Today, we're going back to the original stories behind Naruto's most famous techniques. Some of them stayed surprisingly close to the myths. Others were completely transformed. Either way, once you know where these names came from, you'll never hear them the same way again. Let's start with the most famous one of all, Amaterasu. If you've watched Naruto, you probably think of Amaterasu as black flames. Flames that never stop burning. Flames that even their own user struggles to control. Once they touch something, they refuse to let go. It's one of the most terrifying techniques in the entire series. But here's the twist. The real Amaterasu isn't a fire goddess at all. She's the sun goddess, one of the most important figures in all of Japanese mythology. According to Japan's oldest written myths, Amaterasu ruled the heavens. Every sunrise, every warm day, every successful harvest depended on her. Then, one decision changed everything. Her younger brother, Susanoo, became impossible to control. Wherever he went, trouble followed. He destroyed sacred places. He ignored the rules. He frightened both gods and humans alike. Eventually, Amaterasu had enough. She locked herself inside the heavenly rock cave. Now imagine waking up tomorrow, and the sun never rises. No sunrise, no daylight, no warmth. That's exactly how this story describes the world. Darkness spread across the land. Crops began to fail. Even the gods themselves didn't know what to do. So they came up with an unusual plan. Not a battle, not a rescue mission, a celebration. They laughed, they danced, they sang. They placed a sacred mirror outside the cave. Then they waited. Hearing the celebration, Amaterasu became curious. Slowly, she stepped outside. For the first time, she saw her own reflection shining in the mirror. That single moment was enough. The other gods pulled her completely out of the cave. The entrance was sealed. The sun returned, and the world was filled with light once again. For Japanese people, this isn't simply an old legend. It's one of the stories that shaped our culture. Even today, Japan's imperial family is traditionally believed to trace its ancestry back to Amaterasu. That's how important this goddess is. So, why did Masashi Kishimoto transform the sun goddess into black flames? The truth is, we don't know. He never explained it. But after hearing the original myth, it's hard to believe the connection is just a coincidence. The real Amaterasu brings life through light. Naruto's Amaterasu brings destruction through darkness. Different powers. The same overwhelming presence. The next time you watch Itachi use Amaterasu, remember this. You're not just watching an incredible jutsu. You're watching one of Japan's oldest legends, reborn. If Amaterasu represents the sun, then Tsukuyomi represents the moon. Naruto fans know Tsukuyomi as one of the most terrifying genjutsu ever created. A single glance is enough. The moment eye contact is made, the battle is already over. Inside Tsukuyomi, time belongs to the user. A few seconds in reality can feel like days inside the illusion. Pain becomes endless. Escape becomes impossible. It's one of Itachi's most feared abilities. But the original Tsukuyomi was never associated with illusions. In Japanese mythology, Tsukuyomi is the god of the moon. Unlike Amaterasu or Susanoo, very few stories are told about him. In fact, one single decision defines almost his entire legend. One day, Tsukuyomi was invited to a banquet prepared by the food goddess, Ukamochi. She welcomed him warmly. Then she began creating food. Rice, fish, game. Everything needed for a feast. But according to the ancient myth, she didn't cook it. She produced it from her own body. To modern readers, that sounds disturbing. But in ancient Japan, this symbolized nature's endless ability to provide food and sustain life. Tsukuyomi, however, saw something completely different. He believed the food was unclean. Disgusted, he drew his sword. Without hesitation, he killed Ukamochi. One decision, one strike. Everything changed. When Amaterasu learned what had happened, she was horrified. She refused to ever stand beside Tsukuyomi again. According to Japanese mythology, that is why the sun and the moon never appear together in the sky. One rules the day, the other rules the night, forever separated. So, why did Kishimoto turn the moon god into the ultimate illusion technique? There's no official answer, but many fans believe the moon has always represented mystery, dreams, darkness, things that cannot be fully understood. Nothing feels completely real beneath moonlight. Reality itself seems uncertain. That feeling became Tsukuyomi. Not simply an illusion. A world where reality no longer belongs to you. Different mythology. The same unsettling feeling. If Naruto fans hear the name Susanoo, they don't think of a god. They think of the ultimate warrior, a gigantic figure that towers over the battlefield, an absolute shield, an unstoppable sword. When Susanoo appears, the fight is almost over. It's one of the most iconic abilities in the entire series. But the original Susanoo wasn't a giant warrior at all. In Japanese mythology, Susanoo is the god of storms and the sea. Unlike his sister, Amaterasu, he was wild, impulsive, impossible to control. His actions caused so much chaos that Amaterasu hid herself inside the heavenly rock cave. The world lost its sunlight. Darkness covered everything. Eventually, Susanoo was banished from heaven. At first, he looked like nothing more than a troublemaker. But then, everything changed. One day, he met an old couple whose daughter was about to be eaten by a terrifying monster. The creature was called Yamata no Orochi, an enormous serpent with 8 heads and 8 tails. No one could defeat it. Susanoo came up with a plan. He prepared 8 barrels of strong sake. The monster drank them all. Soon, it fell into a deep sleep. Susanoo drew his sword and attacked. One head, then another, until all 8 were gone. But inside the serpent's tail, he found something unexpected. A legendary sword, the Kusanagi sword, one of Japan's 3 sacred treasures. He later presented it to Amaterasu as a sign of reconciliation. So, why did Kishimoto turn the storm god into a gigantic warrior? There's no official answer. But the connection is easy to see. The original Susanoo protected people by defeating a monster. Now we arrive at perhaps the most unbelievable ability in Naruto, Izanagi. Imagine dying, only to decide it never happened. A fatal wound becomes meaningless. Reality itself changes. The impossible becomes possible. That's Izanagi. Even within Naruto, it's considered one of the most forbidden techniques ever created. But in Japanese mythology, Izanagi wasn't rewriting reality. He was creating it. According to Japan's oldest myths, there was a time when Japan didn't exist. No mountains, no forests, no villages. Only an endless ocean. The gods chose 2 divine beings to create the world. Izanagi and Izanami. Standing upon the floating bridge of heaven, they lowered a jeweled spear into the sea below. Slowly, they stirred the ocean. When they lifted the spear, drops of water fell from its tip. Those drops hardened, becoming the first island of Japan. One island became another, then another. Soon, the land itself began to take shape. Mountains appeared, rivers flowed, trees grew, the winds blew. Little by little, the world was born. According to Japanese mythology, Japan itself begins with Izanagi and Izanami. This isn't simply a creation story. It's the moment an entire nation believed its history began. So, why did Kishimoto turn the creator of the world into an ability that rewrites reality? There's no official answer, but the connection is difficult to ignore. The original Izanagi created reality. Naruto's Izanagi changes reality. Different myths, the same idea. If Izanagi created the world, then Izanami gave life to that world. Together, they created the islands of Japan. Then, they gave birth to mountains, rivers, forests, the wind, the sea. One by one, the world became complete. But when Izanami gave birth to the fire god, everything changed. She was fatally burned. Soon after, she died. For the first time, death entered the world. Unable to accept her loss, Izanagi journeyed into Yomi, the land of the dead, hoping to bring her back. At first, Izanami agreed. She asked him to wait. No matter what happened, he must not look at her. But he couldn't. He lit a torch, and what he saw wasn't the woman he remembered. Her body had already begun to decay. Terrified, Izanagi fled. Humiliated, Izanami became furious. She chased him through Yomi, sending monsters and spirits after him. At the entrance to the underworld, Izanagi sealed the passage with an enormous boulder. The worlds of the living and the dead were separated forever. According to legend, that separation is why death became permanent. So, why did Kishimoto name Itachi's technique Izanami? Unlike Izanagi, which changes reality, Izanami forces someone to accept reality. The illusion repeats endlessly until the victim accepts the truth. It's not about escaping fate. It's about facing it. The mythology and the manga tell different stories, but both share the same idea. Some truths cannot be avoided, and some choices change the world forever. The next time you hear Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi, Susanoo, Izanagi, or Izanami, remember, these names were telling stories more than 1,000 years before Naruto ever existed, and that's exactly what makes them so unforgettable.